I mean, I think success personally is, are you happy? And happiness comes from a lot of different things. It comes from your family. It comes from your health. It comes from your business. I'm a very happy-go-lucky person. I built my companies with a culture based on that. I want people that I want to be around every day. And I'm a big believer in doing things the right way and doing deals that make sense. I always say one of my favorite sayings is, do you want to be right or do you want to win? Because a lot of people get stuck on right.
Oh, absolutely.
They just have to be right, and they don't care what it costs to be right. Mm-hmm. I don't care about being right. That's not what you do. Now you're a business owner. And so that was the thing I had to learn was.
Today, we've got Darel Daik, the founder and CEO of Noble Mortgage and Investments. And I got to know Darel probably a few weeks ago after I interviewed one of your business partners for another business that you own. Her name is Haneen. And literally on the podcast, she told me, she said, Jeremy, you remind me of my mentor, Darel Daik. And so I said, I got to get to know this guy. And so fortunately, we had dinner a couple of weeks ago and we got to know each other. We realized there was a shit ton of commonalities.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah. And so I invited Darel on to the podcast today, and I'm excited to have you. So yeah, give us an introduction. Who are you? And then we'll jump right into some cool questions.
Well, thanks for having me. And yes, Haneen was one of the first things she told me. She's like, you got to meet Jeremy.
Yeah.
She's like, he reminds me of you. And I'm like, all right, where's Jeremy? I love him already. So I'm a father first and foremost. I have two wonderful boys that are my Y, if you will, that are 21 and 19, both in college. My 21-year-old graduates in May, is at A&M, and my younger son is a freshman at Arkansas, so they're the reason I do everything that I do. And then I'm an entrepreneur, business owner like yourself. I've had Noble Mortgage we just celebrated 20 years in March. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge accomplishment, and super proud of that. We had a big party and all that. And then I started Legacy Insurance Advisors about 2.5 years ago, and Haneen basically runs that business because I don't have the time to do that, and I needed someone who was experienced and licensed, and she's been a perfect fit.
Yeah,
she's been a perfect fit. Haneen and I have been really close, good friends. We think alike on the business, which is really important when you have a partner. I've never had a partner, never wanted a partner, but if I had to have one, I would choose Haneen. So it was a good pick.
Well, excellent. Well, I've never had a partner as well, and I think it's a good resource for her being so young. I want to say she's like maybe 27, 28 years old.
I think she just turned 27.
Yeah. And for her to be learning from someone who has a vested interest in seeing her grow and succeed, you're willing to pour all the resources that you can in order to help her achieve her goals, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And she's got the sweat equity putting in there and the knowledge. And, I have to say, for as young as she is, you would never know it. Am I right?
Yeah, no,
I know
absolutely.
a lot of people her age that are as wise as she is.
Well, yeah, I started my business my first company whenever I was 25. Scott Kelly, he came on board as our VP when he was 29. Casey Knight was 28. Christina Lyles in her late 20s. And so it's, the commonality around people in my social circle are individuals that really make moves in their 20s, right? Because I like to surround myself with people whom I respect and admire, right? And as I was kind of like growing up in my career, I wanted to be around people that were better than me, right?
Sure.
To like motivate and inspire me to step outside of my comfort zone. And so it's awesome, man. Well, good. So I own a professional services firm, basically a brokerage. And it's not in real estate. I've just recently got into real estate investment and development, but give me some insight. What inspired you to venture into the real estate industry? And then how did that navigate you into doing private lending?
So I always tell everybody I just got lucky. I graduated with a degree in finance and marketing and thought I wanted to be a stockbroker and somewhere in that space. And so I got a job working for a company that was a boutique company selling government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, and 100% commission job.
Yep.
I worked there for 8 months. I was still a bartender at night, and I didn't make one nickel.
Oh, that's like the stories I hear at Marcus and Millichap.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't make one nickel, but
Yeah.
It was the timing couldn't have been worse because the veterans that had worked for that company, the market had just crashed, and so
it's the 80s.
It was the mid-90s.
Oh, okay.
Mid-90s.
Uh-huh.
And so they weren't making sales. And I was fine. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
And, cold calling every day. I put my time in. And so I had a friend of mine who actually worked for a mortgage company. And he's like, hey, we need loan officers. We want to be a loan officer. So went over there and interviewed with them, talked to them. And I always tell everybody when I got into the mortgage industry, I felt like Mozart on the piano. Like they put Mozart in front of the piano at 3 years old, and he just knew how to play.
Yep.
I just knew how to do loans. Like within 3 months, I was the top loan officer at this company, and I was like, no, this makes sense. So I really got lucky, I will say, because I didn't know anybody in the mortgage industry or the real estate field or anything like that. So I got lucky by getting a job as a loan officer at the company.
Yeah, you were a natural is what it sounds like.
Yeah,
and
really
so
was.
what skills are equated to be a natural, right? Is it the ability to see someone's situation and then know what type of loan structure is going to solve their problem? Is it, or do you have the ability to like negotiate down rates, or like what helps someone be a natural in your industry?
Well, when you're a loan officer, you're basically in sales, right?
Okay.
So you have to be, charming and likable and so forth, but you also have to be detail oriented because it's not like selling cars where, the sales guy comes out, he sells you the car, and then they send you in the back for the detail guy. On the mortgage side, you have to have both.
Okay.
And so I'm a big disc profile person.
I'm a DI. What are you?
I'm a IC.
Oh, interesting.
I'm an IC. So I have the I, which is the charming part, the sales part,
Yep.
and I have the C part, which is the detail part.
Yep.
So I figured out that's what a good loan officer makes. And when I hire people now, I make sure they're IC. So that, and then also being able to solve problems. Like typically, especially on the private lending side, and that company I worked for was already on the doing the hard money loans or the hard private lending side. And you do have to learn how to structure a deal and figure out what a deal is and what is not a deal, and make sure that you're doing a deal that makes sense for not only them but for the company. And I just always had a good knack for that, and that's always been my favorite part is the structuring of transactions.
Yep.
And I'll tell my loan officers, like, if you have a deal and you can't figure it out, like, bring it to me. I will figure out a way to. If there's a deal there, I will figure it out.
Yep.
And I love that part of it still.
Well, you've just seen so many deals go across your desk over the last 20 something years, right? To where you just have the experience that they haven't yet accrued. So let me ask you this. So as a leader, have there been any moments whenever you had to make a decision that involved taking a massive risk? And then if you could maybe share the insight on what the outcome was of that risk.
And I don't know when you don't take risks.
Yeah.
When I started Noble, I really just fell into it. So it wasn't like I had this vision of I'm going to start my own company. And so just a little bit of background on that first company I worked for, I learned a lot, made good money, but then the owner, they started taking a different direction and started doing a lot of larger transactions, which quite frankly, they had no clue what they were doing.
Okay.
So I eventually left there because I'm like, it just didn't feel right. And I'm a big believer in doing things the right way and doing deals that make sense. And they were not doing deals that made sense. Since then, the man that started this company is in prison.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I left, and I was like, it just looked squirrely to me.
Yep.
So I left, and a couple years later, they sank. And he went to prison. He's still in prison as far as I know. So it was that, and I was like, okay, I can't do this.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
And so I started Noble Mortgage, and really it was just me. I subleased some office space from a gentleman that I knew that owned a hard money company. And he was gracious enough to let me sublease from him, and I would broker deals to him. I had started off with a small line of credit that I could lend off of, but I would send him a lot of business, and he kind of mentored me early on in my career. So that was a huge blessing. So going into it, I didn't have, really the skill set or really the knowledge to realize what I was getting into. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm 100% commission anyway. I'm going to go start my company, and I'm just going to do my own company.
Absolutely.
I'm still 100% commission.
Yeah.
And when I think about that now, I'm thinking you had no clue what you're getting into, because sales is just one aspect of owning a business. So, I really had to learn, and it took me a long time to learn, how to manage people, how to put them in the best position, how to build a team, how to build the culture. And so, the most difficult thing that we went through, any business probably, was in the last, 20 years, was the Great Recession of 08 and 09. I went from a team of 15 people to just me and my right-hand man. And so that was probably the most difficult thing we had to deal with, was guide ourselves through that process and still, lead my one team member, and keep my banks in check and keep my investors happy, and just plow through and just keep my head down and to the grindstone. And then once we made it out of that, start building a team again.
So you'd alluded to something around, hey, look, I'm already straight commission. I already get paid on what I produce. What's the difference of starting my own company, right? And I'll be straight commission anyways. And so maybe for the listeners that are producers, right, whether they're in real estate or mortgage or recruiting or whatnot, how can we give some experience share to them that maybe shed some light into maybe the shit that can go wrong and the challenges and bottlenecks that you face, right? Because I think myself as a CEO today, I do more risk mitigation, right? And putting out fires than anything, right?
Absolutely.
Certainly than selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so maybe give some listeners some insight into maybe what they don't know.
Well, there's a really good big book called The E-Myth. I'm sure you've read.
I have not read it.
You've not read it. So E-Myth is about someone that loves to bake pies. And so they decided to open up a pie company. And a gentleman comes in and basically starts mentoring him and teaches him that you don't need to be making pies anymore because that's not what you do. Now you're a business owner.
Yep.
And so that was the thing I had to learn was because at first I was doing sales, I was doing marketing, I did all my accounting, I would look at all the houses I would loan on. You named it, I touched it. Every single thing. And so you cannot grow a business that way. You have to learn to delegate and hire the right people and trust them. Still keep your eye on everything. But that's what I had to learn because I was doing too much and I was good at it. I mean, I finally hired a business coach. He's like, why are you doing your own accounting?
Yep.
I was like, I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I like numbers. I'm good at numbers. And I enjoy knowing where every penny is at the end of the day. And he's like, what's an accountant going to cost you per year? I was like, I don't know, 50 or 60 grand. He's like, how much do you make? And I was like, it just clicked with me. And so that's when I started delegating and really putting the pieces together. And then you become more of a business owner.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in my experience, it's still valuable to have done every single role in the company, right?
Absolutely.
Because then you can audit the people that you hire to do it. You can give them strict, direction and give them clarity on what the mission, vision, and values are. And that way they just become an extension of the way that you think, right?
Absolutely. So, especially on the accounting side. I think that's where most business owners struggle is they don't understand accounting at all. And that's not good.
Well, especially in your business, right? The real estate industry where it's the way that you account for things, the way that you depreciate assets, the way that you take into account, okay, what's my cost of this money, right? In our environment, it's really just a cash basis, accounting, right? And so as long as the bank account is going up, right, we're pretty confident, right? But no, I can definitely relate to that. I had lunch with a buddy of mine who owns a software consulting business, and his name is Summit Sika. I don't know if you know Summit. And he, I told him, so today it's like October 19th or October 18th, and so we had just filed our business taxes last week. And I had to pay the government a very significant amount. And he was like, dude, you don't have any assets to depreciate? And I was like, no, not at all. How are you in a software consulting business? He goes, well, software is an asset, right? And so, I can start another company, retail it at this number, and then write it off, and then do this and depreciate it. And he kind of opened my eyes into a whole new world of accounting that I have not been capitalizing on. And so I may want to talk to your CPA if you have a good one. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, so can you tell me about a time that you can recall in your career whenever maybe you felt an overwhelming sense of fear or self-doubt?
Definitely the Great Recession again.
Okay.
That was a major moment in the history of my company and me personally in developing because again.
And you'd only been 5 years in at this point.
I had been, about 5 years in, and the first 5 years was pretty much easy.
Yeah.
And then the Great Recession hit, and it always comes. You never expect it, right? I remember attending a forecast luncheon in 2007, and we were starting to see headwinds in the industry. And I remember the guru in the front of the room, this economist, doctorate, whatever he was, and it's a builder luncheon. He said, we're predicting a soft landing for 2008. I'll never forget those words. It shows you that you can't trust economic forecasts.
Yeah.
So, that was stressful. I learned a lot. I wouldn't want to go through it again, but during that 2-year period, I learned more than my 25 years of being in the industry because it's sink or swim at that point. I literally had no gray hair in 2007. And so
you were also in like your late 20s and early 30s, so come on.
No, I was late. I was 38.
Okay. 38. Yeah, you're older than you look then. That's good.
Yeah. That's not good, actually.
No, that's great because you look younger than you actually are.
Oh, I thought you said I looked older.
No, not at all. Come on, man.
Yeah, normally here I look younger. So, again, going from 15 people down to 2.
Yeah.
And foreclosures left and right. And as a lender, when we foreclose, we're taking the property back.
Yeah.
And so I still have to pay my lenders and my investors. A lot of the houses are not in good condition. I could put money into them. And so it was super capital intensive and just trying to figure out what to do with them. And so I really had to dig down and like do some soul searching and just grind away. And I was just working, every single day trying to fight out of that because mortgage companies were going down every single day. They had this thing online, the mortgage employmeter or something like that. All these companies were going down.
Did you think about throwing in the towel and just going and taking a corporate job?
Never crossed my mind. I thought, for a while, I wasn't sure if we were going to get out of it.
Sure.
Because it was hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But
especially with how quick it happened.
Yeah,
and how hard we fell, knowing that, man, it took us, 7 years to build up to where we were.
Yes.
And we just erased all of that growth, and success.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I was married.
Yep.
I had 2 little kids at home, so I didn't have an option of failing.
Okay.
And that's when like your back's up against the wall.
Oh yeah.
I got to make this work.
Yeah.
I got a mortgage and kids and the whole thing. So I really had to dig down, get creative, figure out how to get out of it, figure out cash flow on any shape or form on all these houses we had. So I learned a lot during that time.
Yeah. Was that financial devastation for you personally? Did that impact your relationship at home or anything of that nature? I'm looking right now. You don't have a wedding ring on, so I'm assuming that we're fellow members of the divorce club.
Yeah, we are fellow members of the divorce club. I got divorced in 2018, so I don't think that did as much. That was I didn't have any marital problems then, but yeah, definitely after that, I started focusing more on my company.
Understood. Okay.
I got to the point where I really wanted to focus on growing my company.
Yeah.
And I was always a big believer in work-life balance. That term, even though I don't really like that term.
Sure.
I was always a really good dad and still am, always coached all my kids things and spent time with my wife and all that. And then I just kind of lost my focus at some point and became much more focused on my career because I think my kids were getting older and they weren't like, as needy for me around.
Yeah, my kids are 11, 9, and 7. So I'm
they kind of started doing their own
my
thing.
Older one,
They kind of started doing their own thing. And so I started focusing more on my career and, ended up spending too much time in my career, not spending enough time at home with my wife. And so marriage fell apart. Luckily, kind of like you, I'm good friends with my ex-wife to this day. Talk to her all the time, talked to her this morning. Yeah. So that's good. And I'm a great relationship with my kids. Yeah. And so luckily, it could have been a lot worse, because I absolutely I don't know what I would do without my relationship with my 2 boys. Yeah. They were my everything,
Yep, absolutely. So I've got 3 boys. I just mentioned they're 11, 9, and 7. They're in soccer, basketball, did a couple years in baseball. They're starting to look at Krav Maga or jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And so it's so funny. So we're divorced, their mom and myself, and then she's remarried to a guy. I don't know how we could do it without 3 parents. I mean, we are like dividing and conquering almost every single weekend. You've got 3 soccer games on Saturday. You've got 3 basketball games on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
So
you're right in the thick of it.
I actually love that we are a 3-headed parenting squad, man. And then I think that it's amazing. I think that she did an awesome job of solving a lot of the pains and challenges that she had with me and her new husband, right? But then still getting that mentorship, that financial security, that killer instinct and entrepreneurial development from dad, right? And then having the structure and the kindness. So like my kid's stepdad, he's more of like the leader of the Boy Scout, tribe, right? Sure. And so you want that type of relationship for your kids, right?
Absolutely. And you're lucky he's open to it too.
Absolutely. He is not threatened at all. He's got a 22-year-old daughter. And, I actually visited with him last weekend and I was like, man, it took a lot of humility and courage to step into a situation where you're going to raise 3 young children and start over.
Absolutely.
And so I'm very grateful for him. He's very grateful for me. And, he's got a master's degree in geoscience. He's very smart. And he kind of admires my prowess in business. And then I admire the way that he has such structure and attention to detail and meticulousness. And he loves to polish rocks and he loves to do, things of that nature. And so finding a partner that still has complementary values and morals, right? With completely different style, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, It is cool. You're lucky.
Absolutely. So give me some insight into what is one of your proudest moments or milestones that you've ever had in your career?
I mean, I would probably say hitting our 20-year anniversary this year was a huge milestone.
Okay.
You know, I remember when I hit 10, you know, I didn't really think about it. You know, I've always been like, keep my head down, keep moving on. And I hit my 10-year anniversary, and I didn't celebrate. I didn't do anything. And then that's about the time, a little bit after that, a couple years after I hired a business coach.
Okay.
He's like, oh, you've been in business 12 years. What'd you do for your 10-year? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, how'd you celebrate being 10 years in business?
Yep.
I was like, well, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He's like, you didn't celebrate? And I was like, no, it's just like, it was like another day.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So he's like, you need to celebrate your success. So went and bought me a Rolex.
Nice.
I literally left his office. I went straight to the store, bought me a Rolex. And so this year for my 20, we had a big celebration. It was kind of like one of our industry events that we do, but I invited a lot of past employees that came by that had played a big part in the building the company. They showed up.
Yeah.
We had a big celebration. It was a lot of fun. And then instead of buying myself a watch or something like that, I took myself on a big hunt that I've been wanting to do, which I did this last week, a moose hunt. So
Where'd you go and who took you?
I went to Newfoundland,
Okay.
which is in Canada, the eastern coast of Canada. I went with a buddy of mine. It was
Nice.
a guided hunt, and it was just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was supposed to be a 5-day hunt. Ended up harvesting a beautiful bull, and the first morning, hour and a half into it.
Yeah.
So that was cool because I'm a big hunter.
And so your limit is 1 on those trips, correct? So
Yes.
what did you do for the other 4 days?
Nothing. We came home.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's a very secluded hunt. We
Yeah.
fly in a seaplane.
Sure.
So getting in and out of there is not always a guarantee because of the weather plays a big part.
Mm-hmm.
So, we both tagged out on Monday morning, and then we hung around and drank beer all day. And then Tuesday we hung around and drank beer all day. We're like, let's just start making our way back because we're going to be just drinking every day. There's nothing else to do. We couldn't fish or do anything. So we said, let's start making our way back.
Yeah. No.
It wasn't as long as we had wanted, but we got what we came for.
Yeah, absolutely. So give me some insight into who your buddy is, right? Because, I think that it's critically valuable for people in our situation that are grinders and hustlers that have experienced some success to have that close circle of individuals that have kind of been through a similar journey that understand our failures and our successes and don't really need us to pick up the tab, right? So
Absolutely.
Give me some insight into your buddy. How'd you meet him and what does he do?
So I met him. He's actually on a hunt that I met him.
Yeah?
I met his wife first because she was in the real estate industry.
Okay.
And I met him on a dove hunt several years ago. And so we started hanging out and doing a little dove hunting and so forth, and then went up to bigger game and so forth. But yeah, you're right. Your circle, and he's self-employed. He has a commercial construction company nationwide, very successful.
Excellent.
So he understands it. But I'm blessed in that I have a lot of really good guy friends that I've known for 20 plus years. Like I have 3 good buddies that I've known for 30 plus years, and my other buddy that I'm super close with, I've known for probably 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I tell you what, the older you get, the more you appreciate it. Because I knew these guys and they knew me. A couple of them, we were waiters together.
Yep.
Didn't have any money. We were just waiters or bartenders. And so now they're all successful business owners.
Excellent.
It's a different level when you have that relationship with somebody where you came from nothing. So I'm super blessed to have some good male friends in my life that have known me just about my whole adult
Yeah,
my whole life.
they understand the struggle that it took in order to get here, and that just accentuates the hugs and the pats on the back whenever you win, for sure. And your winning doesn't contribute to them losing.
Absolutely.
It's a very much abundance mindset is a word that you used whenever we sat down today.
And especially, you understand this even more, when you go through a divorce, like all of my friends only knew me as married Darel.
Yep.
And knew, us as a couple and my kids. And so navigating through that and still maintaining those relationships, I recognized early on that it was, very awkward for them, of course. So
Yeah.
I just really tried to, like you said earlier, be humble and just be very attentive in the relationship to make sure that I wasn't going to lose any friends during that time period, and try to be selfless and try to help them understand where I was. And luckily I was able to navigate through that. And then also with my ex-wife to be able to repair our relationship and become friends and be her, someone that can be a supporter of hers in a lot of different ways. So you got to really keep your head down and bite your tongue and and be humble and just keep your ego out of it. Because I always say one of my favorite sayings is, do you want to be right or do you want to win? Mm-hmm. And I want to win. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people get stuck on right.
Oh, absolutely.
They just have to be right, and they don't care what it costs to be right. Mm-hmm. I don't care about being right. I want to get what I want, and whether that's a relationship with a friend or whatever, I want to maintain certain things, certain lifestyle. But I always want to win. I don't focus on being right, but I learned a lot of people get stuck on being right, and I try to stay away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that having that mentality makes it very easy for you to give credit to others whenever credit is due.
Absolutely.
Because if Haneen does something, or one of your top producers in your mortgage brokerage does something, you're still winning. Your name is on the top of the sign, right?
Yes.
And so you can highlight her wins and make her the focal point.
Absolutely.
And don't necessarily need to be the ego-driven right one, right?
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. And so unfortunately, I'm not as close with a lot of my friends whenever I was married and lived in Katy. And I've done a good job at recreating, a social circle. First, whenever I moved in, right, like the social circle in the Heights, whenever I was young and single and going on 6 first dates a week. And then now I just moved to Afton Oaks, and I'm starting to elevate that social circle with my entrepreneur friends and EO and YPO. And it's just so funny because I remember, golly, 15 years ago when I was getting, text invites to go golfing, and the green fee was $160, and everyone's like, I don't know, man, might be a little bit too rich for me. And yesterday, Russ Morgan puts in the group chat with me, John DeMolke, and Chris Mastrangelo, a Ritz-Carlton yacht trip that's a $200,000 trip, 8-day excursion. And I'm like, is this even reality that we're considering these $200,000 yacht trips? But
That's awesome.
I did get a verbal acceptance from John last night that I think that he's in, so we might be going on that.
That's awesome.
So good. So let me ask you this. So who have been your most influential mentors or role models in your career, and how have they shaped you, maybe in business or in personal?
Well, I learned a lot from my first boss in the mortgage industry of what not to do. We'll say that. And I mean that sincerely, because I actually liked working for him. I did learn a lot from him. He just kind of lost his way and I think I got a little greedy.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I started my company, like I mentioned to you earlier, there's a gentleman he's probably 20 years older than me, that I had already known, and I would send loans to and broker to, and he was very gracious enough to let me sublease office space from him. And I was basically emulating his company. He knew I was going to be a competitor at some point. And he had been doing it for a while, and we had a good friendship. And so he helped me early on in my career, like figure out a lot of the ins and outs of the hard money side. So he made a huge impact on me. And luckily I was able to repay that favor to him because, years later after the Great Recession, they started making everybody be licensed, including his company. And he didn't know anything about the rules and regulations of the conventional side, because he's only done short-term loans. Sure. So I was able to lend him my expertise on, this is what you need to do, and this is how this works. And so luckily that worked out. And so those are probably the most significant. And then I've always had a lot of friends that have been business owners, and then I hired a business coach, like I told you before, that really kind of helped shape me and like really focus on big picture things and get out of the minutia of the day-to-day grind. And then several employees. I'm a big believer in any and everybody that works for me. I tell them early on, I say, look, you may be the low man on the totem pole, or you may be, second in command, but everybody here has a voice. And if you think, there's a better way of doing something, I am all ears. I'm not saying we're going to do it. I'm going to listen.
Oh, yeah.
And we may try it. And that's how we've shaped everything in my company. It always comes from an employee. Like, what if we do it this way? And I love that. And so I'm a real big believer in empowering employees, getting behind them and elevating them and moving them up the ranks as they progress, if they show the aptitude to do that.
Absolutely.
So I learn a lot from my employees. I'm a big culture guy with my team.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've got a massive growth mindset, and you don't think that you have all the answers, right?
Absolutely.
And thirst for continual improvement. Oh, yeah. I know a lot of people that think that they have all the answers, right? And I'm no longer friends with them, or no longer in dating relationships with them. For sure. And so you talk about hard money a couple of times. I think I know what hard money is, right? So when it's hard to borrow money from a traditional lending institution, right, you go to a hard money lender, and then you guys have additional risk. And so you charge more interest for lending that money, right?
Sure.
So tell me a story about whenever you had to go break somebody's knees in order to repo something. Do you have any stories like that?
No, I don't. Luckily, we don't have to get physical with anybody.
Or I'm under NDA. I can't disclose. He says. Yeah.
We've had some verbal, discussions with people in the past. And I always try to work things out with everybody. If we have a loan that goes bad, it's just when they ignore you when you
Yeah.
have to go into a foreclosure. And quite honestly, a big myth is that a lot of people think hard money lenders foreclose on a lot of properties and they
Yeah.
just want to steal your property. I hate foreclosures.
Yeah.
It is not what I do. I'm here to lend money
Yeah.
and to get paid back. A foreclosure is a huge disruption into my business.
Yeah.
Because now I got to be property owner, right?
Yep.
I got to find a locksmith to go change the locks. I got to find a contractor to go fix it. I got to hire a realtor. That is not what I do. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just want to make loans and get paid back. But, you have to navigate through that because there's always situations where, people stop paying, they ghost you, or they do, unethical things or try to commit fraud. And that's when my blood starts boiling when someone tries to just commit fraud on me or does something unscrupulous or whatever.
Yeah, and that's how you've made it 20 years in the business is you like good, clean deals.
Yes.
And maybe you sacrifice some points,
Yes.
right, by not carrying this massive risk. There's an Instagram influencer that I follow, and he invests in mobile home parks, right? And so he does owner financing to the people, and he requires 20% down. So if, let's say, this mobile home costs $25,000, this family gets a tax return check, right? They've got $5,000, they put it down. And then he's like, yeah, they make payments for 8 months and then they default and I kick them out and I got their 20% and I get another 20% to backfill it.
Yeah.
So his whole business model is predicated on foreclosing on those people. And so I look at business models like that and I just think that that's probably like the guy that you learn from in business that's doing things maybe a little bit too shady.
Sure.
And you might make a lot of money for a short period of time until you're not.
Sure.
Right? And so it's awesome. And that's the reason why you have so much pride associated with hitting 20 years is you've avoided the pitfalls,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You survived 01 and then started your business in 03, right?
Yes.
Then you survived 08. You survived, 2014, 15, 16 in Houston was a very difficult time when we saw oil crash from 120 down to $30 a barrel, right?
Yes.
And then, we had a pretty hot real estate market in 2021 and 2022. And I know myself as a real estate investor, I'm starting to see a massive slowdown, right? Because of the high interest rate environment. And so how is this affecting you and your business? And what are some of the changes that you're implementing in order to weather this next potential Great Recession?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're in a high interest rate environment.
Oh, we're in a normal.
I don't like that phrase. I think we were in an artificially low interest rate environment.
Okay.
We really were.
Yeah.
People are borrowing at 2-3% for 30 years.
Yeah,
That's not normal.
100%.
When I started in the industry, we were doing loans at 8 or 9%.
Okay.
So, the rates were pushed artificially low during COVID to try to spur the economy, and they did that successfully.
Excellent.
And so now we're moving into more of a normal interest rate environment, but it's still people getting used to those rates. Still getting used to those rates. So 21 after COVID, it was just like a rocket ship in the real estate industry. Real estate sales, mortgage loans, everybody made. If you didn't make money during that time, then go sell pizzas or something.
Yeah, refis were probably 60-70% of your business.
Insane.
Yeah.
The rates were low. People were buying and flipping and building. We did a lot of construction. So, we knew that slowdown was coming, and it just happened so quick, kind of like 08, because the rates went, really high, really fast.
Yeah.
And so, the conventional side of the market, which is the 30-year fixed mortgages, has slowed down significantly, which we knew. But luckily, I still have my short-term loans, which my short-term loans have still been steady, which is the hard money loan. And we're lending our own money, and we make money every month on those deals because of the interest and so forth. So we're doing fine. We're not doing as well as we did in 21 and 22, but I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a slowdown. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we won't have the same type of a market like we did in 08 and 09.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it doesn't get that bad, but it's definitely a lot slower.
Yeah. Well, you didn't go out and buy 10 Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Rolls Royces, right? So
No.
you tucked a little bit away for a rainy day.
Absolutely.
You got a couple of kids in college. You didn't spend frivolously. So that's fantastic. So I do want to ask you, and I know this answer for me has changed at 39, 34, 29, 24, right? How do you define success personally? And how does that definition drive your decision-making as a CEO?
I mean, I think success personally is, are you happy?
Okay.
Are you happy? And happiness comes from a lot of different things. It comes from your family. It comes from your health. It comes from your business, your income, your lifestyle, all that sort of thing. So I'm a very happy-go-lucky person.
Okay.
And I built my companies with a culture based on that.
Okay.
I want people that I want to be around every day.
Optimistic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Upbeat. And you spend more time with your coworkers than you do with anybody else.
Yep.
Your family, your kids, anybody else. So first and foremost, I try to make sure that I have a good culture that I look forward to Monday morning. And I do. I love my team. I love going in on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And so that is a big part of it, is being happy with, my day-to-day grind. And, not to say that we don't have, disagreements and we don't have things that happen at the office where people get upset. Of course, you're going to have all that, but we always work through it. And then also on the family side, do you have a good relationship with your family? Do you have a good friend group? All those things come together to me of being successful in life, I guess, more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, if one of those fails, it's gonna be a problem, right? Just like you going through a divorce, me going through a divorce, that was a failure for me. I view my divorce as a failure on my part, but I went through it. I recovered. I managed to put the pieces back together.
You learned from it and implemented positive change in your life.
Yeah, and it's not exactly the same it was, but I have good relationships with everybody that suffered from that divorce, my ex-wife, my kids, my friends. And so to me, that's the definition of happiness, is being able to maintain relationships, maintain your health, be happy on a day-to-day basis, enjoy what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, especially myself in early adulthood, I defined success monetarily, right? And I would tend to agree with you, because I think that money really is just a conduit that can fuel happiness, right? If you love to travel, well, you're going to be able to travel more into more exotic places, right? If you love rare alcohol, you can buy the rarest of all alcohols. If you love cars, right? If you love real estate, homes, luxury goods, things of that nature, if that brings you happiness, then of course money can certainly equate to that. But
absolutely.
Fantastic. So in the face of adversity or difficult times, what strategies have helped you stay committed to your goals and success? Have there been any tools or resources or media that you've gone to that can help recalibrate you?
I mean, I think, when you go through a difficult journey, it's good to have people that are like-minded, whether it's business owners or friends that are successful, because they can offer. Sometimes when when you're going through it, you can't see the forest through the trees. All you see is what's right in front of you. You can't see beyond that. And so I'm a big believer in reaching out to the people that I know and trust, whether it's a business coach or another business owner that I know, or a friend, and be like, this is what I'm going through, and just ask for advice. A lot of people, especially men, as you know, men tend to shut down and I need to figure this out myself. And so it's difficult because our egos get in the way.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can learn to do that, I think it can open your mind, just like you're part of is it EO?
The Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah, I was a part of Vistage for a while, and then that morphed into a business coach. And my business coach had other, business owners where I could collaborate with and get ideas from them. Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Just like you're talking about on the tax stuff. So I think you have to be really open and learn to be vulnerable and learn to ask for help in those situations, because you're not going to figure it all out yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And talk to your team.
That's a great point of leading with authenticity and vulnerability, because nobody can give true, honest experience share if they're only getting a fraction of the full picture.
You have to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Last week I had a buddy of mine that I know through a business organization. He reached out and he confided in me in some marital challenges that he's experiencing, and he's got young children, and he knows that I've gone through it, right? And that there are certainly some regrets that I carry, but that I'm in a better place, right? I'm in a better place emotionally, financially. I'm a better father and a better co-parent, to be quite honest. And so, I don't necessarily think that he needed advice, but I gave him my experience share, right? And then he can do with whatever that he wants to. But I did get a text message the next day of him just being eternally grateful, thinking that I, helped him save his marriage, and he's going to commit to recalibrating and staying on track and putting in the hard work needed in order to make it work. And then he asked me, he said, "Hey, who's your style coach? Who dresses you, man?" And I was like, "Dude, I just buy shit that I see people wearing on Instagram." And so that's my style coach, is the media that I consume. But But anyways, and so let me change into a different topic. And you talk about your culture of your employees and that growth mindset. And so I do want to ask, so how do you promote a culture of continuous learning and personal growth within the organization? Like, what resources do you implement there?
So I think that's a huge part of running any business. You should always try to promote it. And so I'm always, suggesting books to my team. We have meetings every morning and every week to talk about how do we better improve. And then I'm always telling my employees, look, there's several resources available to us that you can go out and go to a motivational class or go to learn a new skill and so forth, and we will pay for it. The people that want to do that are the people you want on your team anyway.
Yep.
And, quite frankly, that's what helped me early on in my career. When I was in my early 20s, I listened to a lot of motivational tapes, and I had tapes.
Physical cassette tapes.
I still have them.
Yeah.
I still have my Brian Tracy, comes in a binder with like 8 tapes on there.
Yep.
And I was a big Brian Tracy guy. And it really helped me get out of my, limited belief mindset, because I grew up, my father is Middle Eastern. And Middle Eastern is, it's a different mindset over there. My father I love my father, don't get me wrong, but he had very negative.
Okay.
And very much
scarcity mindset. And just a fear mindset and just real conservative and don't do this. And, just that negativity. I had to reprogram my mind to look past that, And so I think it's really important for people to do that, especially in their early 20s, because everybody's parent gives them baggage. Every parent gives you baggage. Whether you have the best parents in the world, you have some baggage from them. Oh, I've got a lot.
Yeah, we all do, right?
Yep.
Some more than others. And so it's good to figure out what that is and how to overcome that without sacrificing your relationship with your parent, of course, because they're just, as you know, when you have kids, they don't come with a book. They don't come with a how-to book. You got to figure that out. And so you're human and you're going to make mistakes. And, I've had those conversations with my kids. I'm like, look, you're going to get some of my package just so you know.
Yep.
And I apologize in advance, but you got to figure out what it is because I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And they realize that. And my kids are adults now. So they're like, they appreciate that. And they say, I understand you're human now, Dad, and that you make mistakes. So I think it's good to help your team realize that too. And I try to be super vulnerable with my team. I am a very vulnerable person with my team. The minute there's a problem, someone's upset, I sit them down one-on-one and I be completely open and vulnerable with them and let them know that they're in a safe environment. Let's just talk through it and work through it. But as far as motivating them, I try to be a big, cheerleader in my company and try to always make sure that they're doing the things that keep their spirits up and continue to grow as employees.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that you're very vulnerable, and I think that that's a new quality of a great leader that people are highlighting and recognizing. And I know myself, it's very easy for me to have coaching discussions if I lead with the emotions that I'm feeling right now.
Absolutely.
Right? Hey, I feel disappointment, fear, right? Embarrassment, right? And, these are the qualities that you exhibited. This is what happened. This is how it is affecting me. And then it becomes more about my emotions and less about their actions.
Yes.
And then what I've found is, they feel more horrible than the ass chewing that I would have given them,
Exactly. They beat themselves up.
They beat themselves up. And
but they put their wall up. They're not going to tell you that initially.
Absolutely. And sometimes you peel back the layers of the onion and you get to the root cause of the problem too, know?
Actually.
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
a good point.
Absolutely.
It's a good therapy it does for you as a leader too.
Absolutely.
Good therapy teach you how to be vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been seeing a therapist off and on since 2018.
Yep, same.
I've got a life coach that I retained in January of 2021. And yesterday I had my session with him and I looked at kind of like, the scoring system of where I am and all the different 14 facets of life of me being a father, me being a son, a business owner, a leader, a friend, a neighbor, all these different versions and personas of me. And that very first pulse that I took on March 23rd of 2021, I was a 5.7 when you average out all 14 scores. And yesterday I was an 8.1.
There you go.
And it's like, man, that's transformational growth,
Absolutely.
man. And I'm proud of the day whenever I can confidently put down all the scores and see a 9 point something.
Sure.
And it's only a matter of time because I can focus on one different area in which I need to improve. Right?
Absolutely. Good for you.
Thank you. And so I do want to ask you, can you discuss an instance where embracing maybe some type of technology or innovation or change in the organization led to a positive outcome?
Yeah, I used to be pretty stubborn, and maybe I still am at times. But we put in some really cool software, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, because I was always more old school the way we did certain things, especially on the loan servicing and so forth. And my team basically just shoved it down my throat. They're like, "We're doing this," And I was very much like, man, it scared me. It scared me to like turn all that over into something else and like let go of it.
Oh yeah,
That was like the last thing I let go of, and they didn't give me an option. They're like, no. They basically got together as a team. Like,
yeah.
We're doing this.
Oh, I've had that done for me too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We've already done the
Yep.
research. We've talked to all these companies, and I was a part of it, and this and that. And they kept asking me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Kept pushing them off, and finally they're like, no, this is happening.
Sign here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need you to sign this check, and we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it made everything so much
Love it.
better.
Yeah.
It just freed up a lot of their time and resources and so forth. And so when they come to me like that now, I can see it, and I'm like, okay, this sounds like something we're willing to do. You got to trust them,
Absolutely. I know whenever I hired my vice president at the time, late 2016, then he was promoted to executive vice president, then COO, and now president. He's the one responsible for helping us migrate from 1099 to W-2.
Sure.
Right? And all I could think about was, oh shit, now I got to pay, the taxes, half the taxes for these folks. That's going to cost me $500,000.
Yeah.
Then we migrated to offering health benefits. Oh, another $500,000.
Yep.
Right. Then 401k. Are you serious? Come on. But once you're a real company and you've got health insurance, right? The dental, vision, paid time off, 401k, and you're a real company, the access to talent that you get
Huge.
propel you from the average producer being a 250k producer
Yes.
to where we have 3 people in the organization that do over $1 million a year in annual GDC production, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge.
Yes.
$1 million a year, and our average is probably around 450, 500, and those are the top producers
Yeah.
at many companies.
And you
so
wouldn't get that unless you had those benefits.
you got to have the right culture, you got to have the right infrastructure, the right leadership style, right?
Yes.
Growth mindset, right?
absolutely.
But whenever you look at our why, it's on the board in our conference room, it can come off a little bit aggressive, right? I look at so many people and their why is to create deep, meaningful change in the lives of others, or they want to save the whales. Our why is 3 things. We want to be the best, we want to close deals, and we want to make money. So every single day, whenever we come into this door, whether you're an executive assistant or an executive vice president, you share the same why.
Yeah.
We have the same mission, the same vision, the same values, authenticity, transparency, and a whole lot of work ethic. That's what breeds success in our organization, for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, good. Excellent. So I've talked a little bit about my values, my mission, vision, and things of that nature. Can you give me some insight into your core values and principles that guide the actions and decisions that you make in your company, or maybe even your personal life? One that I noticed earlier was integrity, right? Because you walked away from a situation where you knew, hey, this is shady, right?
Yep.
Noble is in your company name, and so nobility, integrity, character probably are words that are synonymous with the way that you operate. But what other things are kind of tenets or core values that you mandate?
Yeah, I mean, integrity is probably number one, that we try to make sure that we do things the right way. So that's a big part of everything they do, and you can feel that. You can feel when something is not right. But I try to be a resource, I'm very, very much an abundance mentality person. I do a lot of public speaking. And one of the things I always say is, if I can be a resource to you, even if you are working with another mortgage company and you have a question, call me. More than happy to share my expertise with you. For what I think, does that deal make sense, or are you getting a good deal or a bad deal, even if I'm not getting the business? And so that being a resource to people, is like karma. It's going to come back. I'm a big believer in it, and it'll come back around.
Yep.
It'll come back around. And so that's probably the 2 that we focus on the most. And then thirdly is really, do right by each other in the company. Create that culture. We have a good environment where you work hard. It's not just fun and games, but we play hard too. And we try to treat each other with respect and be open and honest with each other. Nobody's, going around backstabbing anybody. The minute there's drama, I don't put up with it.
Oh, yeah.
If there's two people in an argument, I put them bring in my office, and I say, you can both leave or we can work it out.
Yep.
I don't care.
Oh, I'm the same way.
I'm not going to deal with it here.
Well, because success to you is happiness. It doesn't matter if you're $1 million producer.
Yep.
If I can replace you with 300K producers and be happy and fulfilled and not have any drama or stress, I'll take that deal every single day.
Well, it's going to just not only put stress on me, it's going to put stress on my team.
Certainly.
And if my team has stress, then I have even more stress. Mm-hmm. So I'm just not going to allow it. So, do right by each other and make sure that you have each other's back, and we, treat each other with respect and so forth. And same thing with our customers. Make sure we're taking care of our customers. I'm a very laid back boss, but when it comes to customer service, I'm like, you need to take care of these people. I don't care what they say to you. I don't care if they are disrespectful to you, whatever. If there's a line that needs to be crossed, I will be the one that does it. Mm-hmm. If someone insults you or is disrespectful to you, you bring it to me and I will make it right. I'll have your back, but don't go rogue on me.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go rogue and try to put the customer in their place. Yeah. And that's rarely happened.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple instances where one of my employees maybe felt insulted by someone that was just too aggressive with them. And I say, no problem, I got this. I will take care of it. And I will call that person and take care of it and have my employees back as long as they weren't at fault.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important too, to let them know they can rely on you.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned something in about getting ahead of the drama, not being afraid of having tough conversations. And I know that's a skill that I developed after I had the business coach, after I had the life coach, the performance and mindset coach, my Vistage coach, my EO forum. I'm a way better communicator today in 2023 than when I was married in 2018.
Yeah,
right.
Same.
And I almost wonder, what would it have been like if I had the humility to go out and seek all that personal and professional development expertise? Would it have saved my marriage, right? And so now that some of the characteristics of what I look for now in a potential long-term partner are, does she have that vulnerability, that authenticity? Is she emotionally intelligent, right?
Sure.
Can you give me some insight into some of the characteristics that you look for in a potential partner? Are you dating someone?
I am dating someone.
Oh, okay. And so what are some characteristics that she has that is like transformational, where she might make you a better person, or at least get you excited about exclusivity? Huh?
So I think, when it comes to dating in general, first of all,
you're smiling. You're like, I didn't know we were going to take this
I didn't know
turn.
we were taking this turn. That's fine. We can start our dating show again. Well, I married my high school sweetheart.
Okay.
So I met her when I was 16, got married when I was 20.
Cool.
So I'd never dated before. Mm-hmm. And I went through a divorce in 2018. So I was thrown into the wolves.
Okay. Well, you were the wolf, though. What are you? There's all the sheep. Yeah.
Well, not at first, because I was like, I don't know how to date.
Oh, okay.
I never dated before. So, that took a lot of therapy, I guess, and learning how to navigate that, because dating is not for the faint of heart. Mm-hmm. And so at first, kind of like you, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
I went for the pretty face or whatever, if they're attractive,
sure,
and my type, and, it was someone I would take on a date.
Yeah.
But the more you do that, kind of like you go through like that serial dating where you're just going wild and crazy after the divorce, you start to pick up on things. Mm-hmm. And I really started to focus on people's behavior. And, I'm a big believer in personality assessments, also a big believer in the love languages. Mm-hmm. So, but when I start dating anybody, I always make them take those.
Absolutely.
Number one, I find it interesting, and a lot of times people never heard of it. So love languages are super important to make sure.
Mine.
Yeah, I do too. And you have to make sure that you match theirs, because if they feel loved by a certain way, that's not your love language. No matter what you do for them, they're not going to feel loved. And so you have to understand that. And also the personality part. And then I also focus on, are they a self-focused person or are they an other-focused person? So self-focused people, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of self-focused people out there, but they're focused on you. So I'm an other-focused person.
Okay.
So if you're dating someone who's self-focused and you're other-focused, man, they're just going to suck the life out of you.
Okay.
So I pay attention to little things.
Interesting.
Little things. Are they self-focused? Do they notice, the girl I'm dating now, we're at the airport and there's this old man. He looked lost.
Yes.
And she was so focused on this guy, and I'm waiting on my bags. I'm like, what are you worrying about? I'm like, I think this guy's lost.
Yeah.
He looks like he's old. I'm like, what are you talking about?
He'll figure it out, babe.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get on the plane. Yeah.
And I gotta go.
Sure.
Help him. I gotta go help him.
Yeah.
And I was like, at that moment, I looked and I was like, other people focus.
Oh yeah.
And so it's important because it matches better with what I do. But, but are they honest?
Yes.
Can they be vulnerable with you? Can they communicate with you in a healthy way? And are you happy with them? Does your energy feel good around them? When you get around people and your energy just doesn't feel.
You have to walk on eggshells.
Or you have
censor
anxiety.
yourself.
Like that's
anxiety.
that's your guardian angel telling you we don't like this person.
Yeah.
So it's important to make sure you feel comfortable with them.
Absolutely.
And you're in a safe space with them.
Fantastic. Yeah. Look at these dating insights from Darel Daik. Yeah.
And if they cook, it's always a plus, Jimmy.
Well, good. That's good because I like to eat. So like I know my love languages. I like to give through acts of service and physical touch. And the way that I receive is through words of affirmation and through physical touch, right? And so sometimes they're not always the same.
Did I tell you I love that jacket, by the way?
Oh, thank you. Oh, what a sweetheart. Now touch it.
That's your words of affirmation.
Yeah,
for the
absolutely. Yeah. But, another thing that I saw with my ex-girlfriend that I parted ways with a few months ago, I have a very anxious attachment style. She has a very avoidant attachment style. And so that caused some incongruencies with the ways that we needed to be loved and the ways that we needed attention and affection. You talk about childhood trauma, right? My mom was a single mom. She had me at 16 years old.
Wow.
And, she was kind of thrown into it. I didn't get enough attention. I didn't get enough affection from her. I was almost like her little brother, in certain ways. Yeah. And she never developed those maternal qualities.
Yeah.
And so I do seek a lot of attention and affection and things of that nature in relationships.
Sure.
And relationships can come in many facets, right? There's friendships. There's my relationship with my ex-wife. There's obviously dating relationships. And so I think it's important to have clarity on what it is that you need and having a healthy way of achieving what you need, right?
Sure. And the fact that you have a close relationship with your ex-wife, being able to find a partner for you and for me for that matter, that's okay with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of women would not like that at all. And then also I have a partner who you met, Haneen.
Yeah.
She's a very beautiful young woman.
Yep.
So that's not always easy. By the way, this is my partner.
Oh, I deal with that being executive vice president of
and by the way,
legal,
we have dinner together,
a
couple times a month.
Yep.
And, we go to events together and, to be able to not take that as a threat.
Certainly.
And also that I'm close with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Text me, call me anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on? What do you need?
I had a dating partner years ago that was threatened by my ex-wife. And
Sure.
the way I see it is like my ex-wife married me when I was broke and like didn't have any style. And I was not emotionally intelligent. I was arrogant and an asshole. You're winning here, right?
Yeah.
Like let her get the communication, right? I owe that woman a lot.
Sure,
She
absolutely.
sacrificed so much, and she continues to sacrifice each and every day for our children.
Absolutely.
While I'm sitting here on a yacht, right, in off the Amalfi Coast, and she's sitting here fucking, taking kids to gymnastics.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
I'm very grateful for her.
I tell them up front, this is the package deal. Get my ex-wife.
Yep.
I've got 2 boys, those are my priority. But I also have a business partner, that I'm super good friends with. We're very close friends. And, she's 26 years old. She's a very beautiful woman, but she comes with the deal. I'm not going to get, leave the business, get into a relationship with anybody. So, but the key is to have boundaries, of course.
Absolutely.
Have a respect for their emotions and so forth, but have boundaries with those people. And if you have a woman who's healthy and emotionally healthy and able to communicate, it shouldn't be a problem in my mind.
Absolutely. Well, good. So kind of in closing, give me some insight into what legacy you hope to leave.
Well, what's interesting is, both of my sons have both worked for me as interns over the summers, the last several years. So my older son first worked for a couple of summers for me. And then my younger son worked for me the last 2 summers. And then my older son went up to Legacy and worked with Haneen this summer. So my older son actually just told me, I wasn't sure if he wanted to come work in the business or not. He had talked about it and so forth, but he was just here last weekend. He told me when he graduates, he wants to come work at Noble Mortgage.
Okay.
Which is super exciting, because that has to work for everybody involved.
Okay.
It has to work for my son, has to work for me, has to work for my company. And so, when you own a business, you're always like, well, how do you exit it? And so I'm really excited that both of my boys have expressed interest in being a part of the family business and working there and eventually taking it over one day. And so to me, that'll be my legacy to them, to make sure that they understand it. You know, they're not just, you know, being handed the keys and so forth. They understand. I have really good, hardworking, disciplined boys that understand. They're not just walking into it. They got to come in and earn their stripes like everybody else. But I'm excited that they were showing that interest to come in and take over. So it's not going to be something I just sell the company and move off and so forth, that they're going to take it over, and then I can be a part of that to help mentor them throughout that, you know, process over the next several years.
That's fantastic. And that's a massive testament to not only your technical competency and the skills that they've developed over 20 years, but also the amount of like pride and trust and admiration they have for you.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And saying, I want to keep that legacy going.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's funny. You have noble, you have legacy. There's all these words that are just so congruent with your values, man.
Absolutely.
It's awesome to see. I knew it within the first 30 seconds that I met you at Albee that one night.
Yeah.
You're an awesome guy, and I'm excited to call you a personal friend now.
Thank you, friend. Same. I enjoyed it.